Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Britt and I make videos about books and reading and illustrating and my life basically. And in this video slash vlog, I'm going to tell you about why I'm currently on the biggest book buying ban of my life. Because even though reading books and reviewing books and talking about books here on YouTube, on my Instagram is part of my job, I love doing it, I love buying new books, I love seeing lots of books on my shelf as you can see, I have still decided to go on a book buying ban, and this book buying ban has been going strong for nearly 6 months, which means that I haven't bought a single book myself for nearly 6 months. And in this video I just want to talk to you a bit about why, how, and kind of taking you along in this process of not buying any books. Just a little disclaimer is that I haven't bought any books myself for the past 6 months. I have received some books here and there, especially for Christmas and my birthday, but I decided that I would not get myself any new books in the foreseeable future. And it has been going so well that the urge to buy new books has decreased so much. As you can see, I have got many books on my shelf, and there was a time when I suddenly decided I'm going to write down all the books on my shelf that I haven't read yet, and I was shocked. Last year it was nearly 120 books that I still hadn't picked up and that I was apparently very excited about, but some of them had been there for years, so why hadn't I picked those books up? Which definitely made me realize that I do not need any new books. I have got so many books on my shelf that I want to read, that I was very excited about, but are collecting dust on there. So that was definitely the main reason why I decided no. For now, it is enough. I want to focus on the books that have been on my shelf for so many years. I want to pick up those older books that I needed to get and then got and were then collecting dust on my shelf for the next few years. So the main reason is definitely that I was quite shocked by how big my TBR was, and the next reason is to be a bit more conscious with what I'm getting into my life, how much money I'm spending on books, because yes, buying books is so much fun. It is definitely a hobby, but it can be quite an expensive hobby, and life in itself is getting very expensive. So I decided this will be a good way to save some extra money, and I won't really lose anything with it because I've still got so many books that I can read. So those are the two main reasons why I decided to go on a book buying ban. And at first it was difficult. Of course, if I walk past the bookstore, I'm like, I want to take a look, but then I would get home with new books that I would probably not read in the foreseeable future. Even though it was hard at the beginning, it is so easy now, and I'm actually really surprised by myself because I did not think that this would happen. So before writing down all the books that are on my TBR, I decided to do a really big book unhaul, which means that I would get rid of books that I have read but am not really interested in rereading or just didn't really feel that much for. So I decided to unhaul all of those, and then I also decided to unhaul books that I hadn't read but that I genuinely lost interest in, which were also quite a few books. Which is a shame because they were literally a waste of money because I bought them, then I didn't read them, and then I unhauled them again. But it kind of gave me this clean slate of books that I'm genuinely interested in reading and books on my shelf that I have read, have loved, and just feel this particular feeling for, and I just want to keep them on my shelf forever. And then I used Notion to make a list of all my unread books, and at the beginning of this year I believe there were 92 unread books, and as of right now I'm doing like a little monthly update on my Instagram and on YouTube Shorts and TikTok, you know, one of those shorter videos. I do a quick recap of everything that I read in the past month. So if you want to find out more about, you know, how many books are still left on my shelf, definitely keep an eye out for those little short videos that I post at the beginning of every new month. So I now keep track of all my unread books in Notion and in Storygraph. Like in Storygraph I just, you know, post the books that I have read, but then in Notion I can delete the book of my to be read shelf. Storygraph is such a great app to keep track of like what you're reading because there are so many fun statistics in there. So if you've got Storygraph, definitely follow me or add me as a friend because I would love to get some more people on there to follow along with their reading journey and to see what they are reading. But it's a really fun app where lots of fun little statistics are shown. Because of this book buying ban, I've actually found myself to be in a much better reading mood because I am focusing more on the books that I still have on my shelf, and I personally find it very exciting to kind of have this goal for myself to pick up the books that I already own. And I do not want this to be like, I just want to read as many books as possible, get through them as quickly as possible. But because I'm now focusing more on the books I already have, I feel like, you know, my reading mood is a lot better because I'm not constantly like, oh, I need to get this book, I want to order this book so bad, I keep seeing this around everywhere. Yes, I still see books that I'm interested in reading and I will put them on my wish list for the time when I will break my book buying ban, or when it's like Christmas or my birthday time and people want to get me a book as a gift, so I still know the type of books that I really want to get. But I just don't really feel the urge to immediately get them, and that feels so good. Because I still remember this time, it was like 10 years ago when I got back into reading, and when I found out about BookTube, there were people with the biggest bookshelves and they were talking about all the new books that I got, and I was so influenced by this, and I got so many books during those years when I got back into reading that I would sometimes get like 10 or 15 books every month. And even though it felt so good, it was like, this is so fun to have so many books on my shelf, many of them I ended up not even reading. And the more that I think about it, the more I'm just like, I only got those books because I wanted to have lots of books, even though I wasn't really interested in that. And that is a reason why I now think a lot more about the books that I'm getting. And I still totally get how fun it is to get new books and to have like the biggest library. And I was definitely thinking about, okay, do I want to just have the biggest library possible and have a house filled with books? Do I want to have a bit of a smaller library with all the books that I genuinely love or want to read? And I decided to go for the second one. Maybe later in life I will have a whole library filled room, but I hope it will be with books that I loved or am interested in reading. So I kind of just had to make that decision for myself. So don't get me wrong, I totally get it if you just want to have your entire house filled with books, even though you may forget about some books because that is, you know, inevitable. But I personally chose the second option, to just have a bit of a smaller library, although this is not small, it's like freaking big, but with books that I am just really interested in and love. So yeah, I've decided to give old books a chance, and it feels so good and so fun to finally pick up some books that have been on my shelf for so many years. So just to be clear, not shaming anyone for buying dozens of new books every month, because I feel you, I get it, I know how much fun it is. I've just personally made the decision to quit this for now and be a bit more mindful about the books that I'm bringing into my life. And it has honestly given me so much rest in my head. It is very crazy, and I never thought this would happen, but I'm having a lot of fun with focusing on the books that I have on my shelf. And that is why the rest of this video, I just want to kind of do a reading vlog, show you what I'm reading, show you what I plan on reading, and kind of take you along with me in my reading routine. So if we go over to my Notion page, which is where I keep track of all my unread books, you will see, I need to like go there now. You will see that I have got 67 unread books left, which is the smallest number of unread books I have seen in a long time for me, because it used to be easily over 100 books. My reading mood is just on fire. Something that really helps with like reading multiple books at once, which I love because I love reading different genres at the same time, because I'm a mood reader, so I kind of just want to read whatever I feel like reading and not only focus on this really, really big fantasy, or, you know, have different books at hand. So what really helps for me is to read books in a different format. So read one physical book, one audiobook, and an ebook. And that has helped me so much with reading more and making it more of a daily habit. Because same as with a book buying ban and kind of learning and getting used to not buying many books or not impulse buying books. That's the main thing for me, impulse buying, because I'm definitely bad at not, you know, impulse buying things. And it now became a habit to not do that with books. And that is why it feels so much easier for me now. So I've stopped impulse buying books. I don't know where I was going with this point. I started out with talking about reading multiple genres on multiple like formats. Oh well. It basically helps me to focus on different books at once, and just, you know, if I don't feel like reading a certain book, I can just pick up a different one, because I'm reading multiple books at once. So I would love to tell you about the books that I'm currently reading. There is actually one book that I'm rereading because I suddenly thought about this book and I read it a few years ago and absolutely loved it. And it is Einstein's Dreams, written by Ellen Lightman. I remember getting this book because apparently Erin Morgenstern, the writer of The Night Circus, was inspired by this book. for the writing style of The Night Circus, and I loved The Night Circus, so I decided to pick up this book as well. And this is basically a fictional story about Albert Einstein during his time when he was writing and, you know, creating his theory of relativity. And this is full of short stories. Every story is like a few pages long, and it's about a different way that time can tick. So it can go like backwards or like in a circle, or like cause and effect can kind of be opposite, and the kind of nature influences time. It is just super fun and unique, and what I love most about this book is that every short chapter is about a new character, and even after 2 or 3 pages you feel for those people. And that is, I think, the beauty of this book, that the writer can make you feel for these people even in a few pages. So this is one of the 2 books that I'm reading physically, because this is a reread, but I'm also reading a book that I haven't read yet before, which is Rouge by Mona Abad. I got this one for, I think, my birthday or for Christmas, and I honestly, oh, my fringe is getting long. I honestly didn't really know what this book is about until I started it yesterday, because it just looks really cool, and I really enjoyed Bunny by the same writer. But this is apparently about a girl named Belle whose mother passed away, and at the funerals she sees this interesting woman in a red dress whom she doesn't know, and then it's about her finding out what happened to her mother. But also she's very obsessed with watching skincare videos on YouTube, or like on, not on YouTube but just on social media, and very much about like what she looks like. Why you also see a mirror on the back, and I think why it's called Rouge, because it says it explores the cult-like nature of the beauty industry as well as the danger of internalizing its pitiless gaze. And it's like Snow White meets Eyes Wide Shut. It's like the dark side of beauty, envy, grief, and the complicated love between mothers and daughters. It sounds really interesting and really cool. I've only read 1 chapter so far, page 23. By the way, this is a new bookmark, so you can get this bookmark, which I'm so excited about. I think this is one of my favorite bookmarks I've ever designed. Not really the same vibe as this book, but oh well. So this is the book that I am also physically reading. Then I'm listening to an audiobook, namely In Het Vervloekte Hart, written by Rima Ori. This is a Dutch fantasy book, and I haven't read a Dutch fantasy book in so long, so I'm super excited that I found this one on BookBeat, which is one of my favorite audiobooks app out there. So if you're from the Netherlands and you would like to try it out, this is not sponsored, but I just genuinely really love the app because they have such a good selection of books. So if you're from the Netherlands and you would like to try it out, you can click the link in my description. It is an affiliate link, so it would really help me out, but I'm just genuinely really excited about this audiobook app because there are so many good books on there. And when I found out that this one was on there, I was really happy because it is really big and quite heavy, and I'm always quite intimidated by seeing really big books, and I'm always a bit uncomfortable reading these really big books because they're heavy. So I thought I'm going to just listen to this fantasy, which is about a girl named Priya, and she is a blood child born during the blood moon, and she has these powers that she needs to keep hidden. But then there is a war breaking out, and maybe these powers will actually be very helpful and useful. I'm really excited to dive into this one. I've only listened to like a few minutes so far. But then the book that I'm reading on my e-reader is Arcadia by Ian Pearce, which I have talked about in so many of my recent vlogs because I'm still only like 35% of the way through this book. This is a fantasy book that takes place in like different worlds, kind of like a fantasy mix, because some worlds are just like our normal world, then there is a fantasy world and kind of like a time travel world. It is very complicated, and every chapter follows a different timeline, different world, so I'm struggling a little bit with this one, but I am still enjoying it. So we're just gonna keep going and slowly read this on my e-reader. This was the absolute longest intro to a vlog ever, but I just wanted to tell you about this book buying ban and why I highly recommend you try it out as well, because I am honestly having so much fun focusing on these older books on my shelf that I am, you know, that have been there for so long, and that I'm just so excited to finally pick up. So if you have been, you know, thinking about maybe going on a book buying ban, or just going on like a medium book buying ban, or keeping your book buying to a certain number per month, something like that, just take it slow. Highly recommend you try it out, because I have now created a habit of not impulse buying books. And oh, that's what I was talking about habit of reading every day, and now I've got a habit of not impulse buying books. The point I made earlier. But I've now just created a habit out of it, and it is easy and it feels so fun. Just pick up a few of those older books on your shelf because they also need a bit of love sometimes. If you've got any questions about my book buying ban, definitely let me know in the comments, because I think I've talked about everything, like my reason behind doing this. But if you've got any more questions, definitely do not forget to just let me know in the comments. So I hope you're going to enjoy the rest of this video. It will be like a vlog type reading vlog, and I'll just keep you updated on my reading. Okay, this was the longest intro ever, but thank you for listening if you're still here, and enjoy the rest of the video. Speaking of only having books on your shelf that bring you joy and that you enjoyed reading, I have decided to do a little unhaul, because it has been so many months since I've last been through my shelf, and I was just looking at my shelf and I realized I have quite a few books that I'm just like, meh. So let's do a quick unhaul. The first one is The Island of Dr. Moreau, written by H.G. Wells. Did not feel anything for this book, didn't really enjoy it that much, so I'm gonna put this on Vinted. As well as Rainer Maria Rilke's selected poems. I love his Letters to a Young Poet, which is absolutely amazing, but this one I literally cannot remember any of the poems I read, and poetry just isn't really my thing. Then we've got Tender is the Flesh, written by Agustina Basterica. This is a dystopian that takes place in a world where they now grow humans for consumption. This was very disturbing and weird, and I read it, but that's it. Then we've got this little poetry collection called Killer Verse, Poems of Murder and Mayhem. Ooh, such fun books. I got this like, I don't know when, 10 years ago, something like that. When I got back into reading, I was just like, oh, I want to look cool and I want to read poetry. But like, the thing is, I like the look of this book, but yeah. Haven't really found much poetry that I really enjoy reading. Luster by Raven Leilani. Also read this one, and I honestly just wasn't too impressed. Vile Stars, written by Sara Milano. I believe I listened to this one on audio, and I just can't remember a thing. Was not really too impressed. And lastly, The Odyssey by Homer. The thing is, I still want to read this book one day, but why is this cat? It's like so dark. I got this one because of the cover. Only later did I find out that there are like many different translators, like obviously, but that some are definitely more pleasant to read than others. And the translator of this particular edition, I just heard that there's a better translator, as in a more pleasant to read writing style with more easier maybe. So I'm gonna unhaul this one for now. And I will like take it off my TBR because it's not like physically on there anymore. But if in a few years I'm suddenly just like, I want to read The Odyssey by Homer, I'm gonna get the one translated by, I believe she was called Emily, but now I'm gonna look it up. Yes, Emily Wilson. I heard that her translation is a bit more young and maybe a bit easier to read for someone whose native language isn't English, and also is not the best with reading classics and very difficult works. So I'm gonna wait until I want to read The Odyssey, translated by Miss Emily Wilson. There are actually a few comics that I'm also going to unhaul. These are all Joker comics, because when Joker was released in 2019, I was suddenly in my Joker Batman comic era, and I thought the film was so amazing, so I wanted to read all of those comics. And I still got a few comics left that I remember really enjoying, but honestly these ones I had to check my ratings on Goodreads and stuff, and apparently I wasn't too impressed. So this is called The Joker, The New 52. Then we've got this really creepy illustration. It's called Joker, written by Brian Azzarello and Lee Bermejo. It looks so messed up. And then we've got the 80th anniversary of the Joker. So I'm also gonna unhaul these. So I'm just gonna keep a few that I really enjoyed. I believe like 3. So more books to unhaul. I'm now also going to film a little wrap up of the books I read in March, as well as some other books. This one was actually still on my Notion TBR, but I already read it. I forgot to delete it. So this one, is off the list as well, and of course the one I'm going to unhaul. So I'm just going to film a little clip for like in front of my bookshelf that I can upload as a reel and a TikTok and a short for a monthly reading update. Because even though it's only the 29th of March, I am positive that I will not finish another book before April starts, so I can already film the little wrap up right now. It is a few days later. I'm going to quickly give you some final reading updates before my camera battery runs out, because I have read about 10% of the audiobook that I'm listening to. I haven't really continued reading Einstein's Dreams, but I have read about 60 or 70 pages from Rouge by Mona Awad, which I'm really enjoying. I also haven't continued reading Arcadia on my e-reader, but that's okay, because it has been quite a busy and hectic week, hence why I didn't film anything this week, but I still managed to film a little bit during Easter. On Easter day, on Sunday, I did a little like Easter brunch for me and my boyfriend using Christmas napkins because I still had those. And then on the Monday after Easter, I celebrated it with my family with a very big Easter brunch table, and it was so lovely, and my mom made the best Easter brunch, so that was super nice. But I am going to end this video here. I really hope that you liked it. Let me know if you're also currently on the book buying ban and how it's going for you, or what you're currently reading. And if you do want to comment something but you don't know what to comment, you can also of course always comment a little chick, because it was Easter, like the chick in the egg. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you're having a beautiful day, and I will see you in my next video.